Native Americans, also known as American Indians or Indigenous Americans, are the original inhabitants of the United States. The term Indian traces back to Christopher Columbus, who, upon arriving in the Americas, mistakenly believed he had reached the East Indies and thus labeled the local peoples as Indians. Native tribes possess a vibrant legacy of diverse cultures, languages, and customs. From the ancient Hnosani civilizations to their lasting influence on modern life, their heritage stands as a testament to resilience and cultural depth. With more than 500 distinct nations, these communities actively work to revive their traditions, prioritizing language preservation, cultural celebrations, and artistic heritage. Native Americans have profoundly shaped history and continue to enrich our shared cultural tapestry. Today, over 9 million Native Americans belong to hundreds of tribes, each with unique languages, histories, and traditions. Native peoples have lived across this land since time immemorial, from Alaska's icy frontiers to Florida's tropical shores. But did you know there are little-known marvels about their heritage that might astonish you? Let's explore these hidden truths about Native American tribes, facts rarely shared before. 1. Native Americans spoke more than 300 languages. Before European contact, North America was home to an extraordinary linguistic diversity, with over 300 and possibly up to 500 languages spoken. Yet many vanished due to government-enforced assimilation. In 1868, President Ulysses S. Grant summed up the official stance. "Two-thirds of our troubles stem from language differences. Their savage tongues must be erased and replaced with English." This proclamation ignited policies targeting native languages. Throughout the 1800s, tribes were forcibly relocated to reservations, and children were sent to boarding schools where English was mandated, further weakening indigenous tongues. Only in 1972, with the Indian Education Act, did tribes regain the right to teach their languages. But the harm was already severe. By 2013, just 169 native languages survived, some with only a few elderly speakers. In response, the 1990 Native American Language Act sought to protect and revive these languages. Without urgent action, all but two may vanish by 2050. 2. The first native language newspaper launched in 1828. Before European colonization, native languages thrived as oral traditions, shared through generations. The arrival of European settlers brought transformation to many Native American tribes as they adopted written communication. A prime example of this evolution emerged within the Cherokee Nation through the pioneering work of Sequoyah. A Cherokee man himself, Sequoyah spent 12 years developing a writing system for his people, finally completing an 86-character syllabary in 1821. Dr. Ellen Cushman, a Cherokee scholar and professor at Northeastern University, emphasizes the uniqueness of this achievement. Unlike other syllabic scripts worldwide, such as Japanese hiragana, the Cherokee syllabary was the only one invented by an indigenous person solely for indigenous use. What makes it remarkable is its perfect alignment with Cherokee speech patterns, making it intuitive for native speakers to learn. Cushman notes that within just 3 to 5 years, many Cherokee people achieved fluency in reading and writing using this new system. A major milestone came on February 21, 1828, when the Cherokee Phoenix launched in New Echota, Georgia. This groundbreaking publication became America's first bilingual newspaper, printed in both English and Cherokee. The Cherokee Phoenix played a crucial role in safeguarding and celebrating Cherokee language and culture, showcasing indigenous ingenuity despite outside pressures. 3. Native American trade routes spanned an entire continent. Long before European settlers arrived, Native American tribes had already established complex, far-reaching trade networks that connected communities across North America. These vast systems allowed tribes to exchange goods, ideas, and technologies over thousands of miles. Trade items such as obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, seashells from the Gulf Coast, Copper from the Great Lakes and turquoise from the Southwest moved along these routes. Even foods and medicinal plants were widely distributed, linking hunter-gatherer societies with agricultural communities. These networks were not only about commerce, they were about diplomacy and cultural exchange. Tribes maintained peaceful relations, shared religious beliefs, and learned new skills through these intertribal connections. The sophistication of these pre-colonial trade systems reveals the high level of social organization that existed among indigenous nations long before European contact. 4. The U.S. has 574 federally recognized tribes. Of these, 229 are located in Alaska, while California follows with 109, the highest Native American population of any state. These federally recognized tribes hold a sovereign nation status, maintaining a direct government-to-government relationship with the U.S. This allows them to negotiate treaties and access federal programs. However, not all tribes hold this recognition. Many remain unrecognized, excluding them from vital federal aid and resources. As of 2020, 66 tribes across 13 states had earned state recognition. While this doesn't guarantee state or federal benefits, it validates their historical and ongoing presence, helping them advocate for rights and partnerships. 5. Native Americans developed many staple global crops. Indigenous diets were deeply tied to local ecosystems, with agriculture central to many tribes. Their farming expertise gave the world crops that now dominate modern food supplies. In 2016, an estimated 60% of global food production traced back to North American origins. Corn, first cultivated 10,000 years ago in southern Mexico and Guatemala, became a dietary cornerstone long before European contact. Beyond corn, Native Americans domesticated beans, squash, potatoes, and tomatoes, crops that not only sustained their communities but also revolutionized worldwide cuisine. 6. Native American medicinal knowledge influenced modern medicine centuries before modern medicine existed. Native American tribes possessed an extensive understanding of medicinal plants and natural healing techniques. These communities developed sophisticated herbal remedies, often derived from their deep spiritual and ecological relationship with the land. More than 2,500 plant species were used by tribes for healing purposes. For instance, willow bark, used by Native Americans for pain relief, contains salicin, an active compound that inspired the development of modern aspirin. The echinacea plant was used for treating infections and boosting immunity, while yarrow served as a remedy for wounds and bleeding. This rich tradition of plant-based medicine not only supported the health of Native communities for generations, but also influenced Western pharmacology. Many commonly used modern treatments trace their origins to indigenous knowledge. Today, there's a renewed appreciation for traditional healing as Native American herbal practices gain recognition for their scientific and cultural value. 7. Native Americans built some of the oldest structures in North America. While the towering pyramids of Egypt often capture the public imagination, some of the oldest monumental structures in North America were constructed by Native Americans thousands of years ago. The Poverty Point earthworks in Louisiana, built around 1500 BCE, consist of massive concentric ridges and mounds and are believed to have been used for ceremonial purposes. Later cultures, like the Mississippians, constructed even more elaborate cities. The city of Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, was once home to tens of thousands of people. It featured massive earthen pyramids, central plazas, and an organized layout that rivaled the size of European cities at the time. These ancient metropolises challenged the misconception that indigenous peoples lived only in small, scattered communities. Instead, they reveal a complex urban past, complete with advanced engineering, astronomy, and social systems, that is only now being fully recognized by modern archaeology. 8. The Hnosani Confederacy is among Earth's oldest democracies. Known to the French as the Iroquois Confederacy, this alliance united 6 nations: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and later the Tuscarora. While scholars debate its founding, some citing 1142, others time immemorial, it remains one of history's earliest participatory democracies. Bound by the Great Law of Peace, Narmark Kaya Narakoa, their political constitution, the Confederacy influenced the U.S. Constitution in three key ways, as noted by Dr. Donald A. Greenday, Jr., Yamasee Heritage, author of Exemplar of Liberty. 1. Sovereignty rooted in the people. 2. Separation of governmental powers. 3. A written constitution with structured articles, mirroring the Hnosani's annual recitation of their laws. 9 Native American democratic traditions preceded the U.S. Constitution. While the Hnosani Confederacy is often credited as an influence on the U.S. Constitution, many Native American tribes practiced democratic principles long before European colonists arrived. These indigenous governance systems emphasized consensus, community responsibility, and often included the vital participation of women. For example, the Cherokee Nation relied on dual councils, one for peace and one for war, allowing for balanced and deliberative decision-making. Among the Iroquois, clan mothers held the power to appoint and remove male leaders, ensuring a system of checks and balances. These democratic models served as living examples of inclusive governance. European philosophers and U.S. founding fathers drew from these traditions as they shaped the American political system. Today, tribal governments continue to operate as sovereign entities with their own constitutions, courts, and elected officials. 10. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced native displacement. Before European settlers arrived, Native American tribes thrived across the entire expanse of what we now know as the United States. A defining and tragic moment came in 1830 when President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act into law. This controversial legislation was largely driven by white settlers' desire to exploit the rich agricultural lands of the South, particularly for cotton cultivation, which required displacing the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and numerous other indigenous nations. The act's brutal enforcement resulted in the mass expulsion of native communities from their homelands in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. These peoples were marched at gunpoint to a specially designated Indian Territory in present-day Oklahoma. The forced relocations, conducted under horrific conditions, led to countless deaths along what became known as the Trail of Tears. This shameful episode stands as one of America's gravest injustices, a systematic campaign of ethnic cleansing that destroyed native communities for economic gain. The trauma of these events continues to reverberate through generations of indigenous families today, underscoring our collective responsibility to confront this painful history and work toward meaningful reconciliation. 11th, Native Americans finally received U.S. citizenship in 1924. A watershed moment occurred on June 2, 1924, when President Calvin Coolidge signed the Indian Citizenship Act. While some Native people had previously gained citizenship through the 1887 Dawes Act, which tied citizenship to accepting individual land allotments, most remained excluded from full legal recognition. Even after 1924, the promise of citizenship remained hollow for many. States maintained control over voting rights, and numerous states continued denying Native Americans access to the ballot box through discriminatory practices. Many states instituted literacy tests requiring voters to read and write English, a blatant attempt to disenfranchise Native communities where English wasn't the primary language. This systematic voter suppression persisted until the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965 finally prohibited such discriminatory tactics. The long struggle for full voting rights highlights how Native Americans faced continued marginalization even after gaining nominal citizenship status. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 represented a watershed moment in American democracy, systematically removing the institutional roadblocks that had long prevented Native Americans and other marginalized groups from full electoral participation. While the 1924 Indian Citizenship Act granted legal recognition, true political equality wasn't achieved until 41 years later, when federal protections finally nullified discriminatory state voting laws. 12. The Navajo Nation, a sovereign land of record-breaking proportions encompassing a staggering 25,000 square miles, comparable to all of West Virginia and more than double Maryland's area, the Navajo Nation's sovereign territory stretches across 3 states, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, making it the most expansive reservation in America. In 2021, the nation reached another historic achievement when its enrollment surpassed 400,000 citizens, eclipsing the Cherokee Nation to become the most populous tribal nation. What makes this even more remarkable is that the Navajo maintain the largest population of native language speakers in the country. The vitality of Diné Bizad, the Navajo language, stands as both a cultural triumph and a living bridge to ancestral knowledge, preserved through generations, despite overwhelming pressures to assimilate. 13. Native American code talkers helped win world wars. During the most critical moments of World War I and II, Native Americans made a profound contribution to American military efforts through a role few people learn about in history books. They served as code talkers, utilizing their tribal languages to create secret codes that enemy forces could never break. Among the most well-known were the Navajo code talkers in World War II. Their unbreakable code proved vital during operations in the Pacific Theater, including the pivotal Battle of Iwo Jima. Unlike traditional military codes, which could take hours to decode and were often vulnerable to espionage, the Navajo language-based messages were delivered in mere seconds and with complete secrecy. These soldiers transmitted thousands of messages without a single breach, playing a crucial role in the success of the Allied forces. Despite their heroism, the contributions of the code talkers remained classified until 1968. Their legacy today stands as a powerful testament to the unique and often overlooked role Native Americans have played in shaping American history and defending its freedom. 14. Addressing the silent crisis in Native communities. Public health data paints a heartbreaking picture. Native Americans face suicide rates that dwarf national averages, with youth particularly vulnerable at 150% higher rates than their non-Native peers. This epidemic stems from a perfect storm of historical trauma, cultural erosion, systemic poverty, and chronic underfunding of reservation mental health services. While innovative programs blending traditional healing practices with clinical approaches have shown promise, the crisis demands sustained attention and resources. Tribal-led initiatives focusing on cultural reconnection and community support networks offer the most hopeful path forward. These revelations about Native American experiences weave together both extraordinary cultural endurance and profound historical injustice. From their diverse traditions to the intergenerational impacts of colonization, understanding these complex realities is essential for meaningful progress. Supporting language revitalization, equitable resource allocation, and truth-telling initiatives represents our shared path toward healing. Today's Native nations navigate a delicate balance, preserving ancient wisdom while engaging with modern challenges. Through immersive language schools, intergenerational storytelling, and vibrant artistic expression, they're rewriting the narrative of their future. The language preservation movement recognizes these native tongues not just as communication tools, but as living repositories of ancestral knowledge. Native contributions continue to shape global culture, from contemporary literature rooted in oral traditions to groundbreaking visual art showcased internationally. Sports legends like Jim Thorpe, Sack and Fox, and Billy Mills, Oglala, Lakota, have redefined what's possible for Indigenous athletes on the world stage. Moving beyond stereotypes requires engaging with the full complexity of Native experiences. By learning these often overlooked truths and understanding their modern relevance, we participate in a more authentic appreciation of Indigenous heritage in contemporary society. We're grateful you've joined us for this important exploration. Share your reflections in the comments, and if this content resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and enable notifications for future videos that amplify Native voices and stories. Your engagement helps ensure these vital narratives reach wider audiences.